Oh, yeah, it's president's day. Oh. I think he sitting back in the corner there. Oh, he's inside out.
Inside out.
Think it's warm?
I do.
Yeah. Yeah, usually that fan's blowing, eh? Mm.
We have green light for the speakers. That didn't change, right, Mitch? The green light for the speakers didn't change, right? But if anybody wants to speak, they need to come to the front row. Is that correct?
Like yourself, back there, so if you pick up pretty close, and pushing the front yard, the better audio you're gonna have them.
Okay.
And we can adjust those volume levels. We'll have to test and see how this one goes and listen, but go back and listen to it and see if we need to turn anything up or down.
Okay. We have the public hearing first, so we'll need the podium and we'll wait. Morning. Got another minute. All right, the clock says 10 o'clock. I'll call the meeting to order, and will you please stand and join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which is stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for coming today. We've got new technology we're trying out, and we have a long agenda, so be patient. We'll try and get through it as quickly as possible. But there's a lot of good information to share this morning. All right, first up, the consent agenda. Somebody want
It over, I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
motion to approve by Shay, second by Jorgensen. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carried. At this time, we move on to the scheduled sessions, and first up, we have a public hearing. Matt Wyatt, Director of Planning and Development, For first consideration of ordinance number 2024-01, an ordinance to amend the official zoning map of Pottawattamie County by changing the district designation of approximately 35.94 acres from a class A3 to a class 1 or I1 for the limited industrial district and setting the date for second consideration. Matt.
Good morning, and I have.
Do we go into,
Oh, we got to open the
yeah,
public hearing.
I'll make a motion to go into open or public hearing.
I'll second.
Motion by Shay, second by Jorgensen to open public hearing.
We've done a roll call.
Roll call.
Chairperson Miller,
Aye.
Supervisor Wickman,
Aye.
Belt,
Aye.
Shay,
Aye.
Jorgensen.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, now,
So I have Buck Morris here with Morris Properties to apply to Pottawattamie County to have this rezoning done. It's down on 192nd Street, and I'll let him tell you a little bit about what he's planning to do with the area.
Yes, so, the property is currently right now, or was a field, and it's in the floodplain, so we started building building the ground up to get out of the floodplain, which is currently surrounded by other industrial properties. And, our, family business is Morris Excavating across the street in the city, and we're currently in the process of developing that and building a building over there. Across the street, I purchased this a few years back, looking to make this an industrial lot as well. Or potentially 4 different lots. That would look similar to that. So trying to make it look aesthetically pleasing, but mostly this would be contractor yards. So any type of contractors looking to come build a building, this would be a good spot for them to be. The design of it, we kept the buildings a little further distance away from the road, put the ponds more towards the front, and they'd be wet ponds to be more aesthetically pleasing, but while still retaining the purpose of the retention pond. Yeah, so basically this would be contractors' yards. We would have covenants on it. You know, I know a lot of cities code as far as building. This would be a little bit above standard we're trying to do. So in front of the buildings, we try to do paving in our covenants, and then behind the buildings would be able to be gravel. And then as far as surrounding the property, we're gonna have green space that will be have tree space so often. I'm gonna end up doing that as the developer on it, and then putting and then hydro seeding all the grass areas. So try to keep it aesthetically pleasing.
is that right off the gravel or does the pavement extend down that far?
Gravel, or I'm sorry, the gravel starts right at the north side of this property, so the pavement
Okay.
ends right at the north side.
Okay,
Yeah, and talked to some guys in the county there, and they were looking to see about pushing to get with this development and ours across the street to try to get paving down to at least the south side of the property, I think. It was in for, I talked to engineer in there, John Rasmussen. Yep.
And we have another development that is ongoing. They're going through the permit process right now. That is south of this property and John Cox owns. And they're building a large warehouse style development down there. It's gonna bring in some new employees. So Paula's here. I had reached out to Paula to have them talk to John Cox, and I talked to the Coxes on it to make sure that they work with us for any kind of RISE grant funding that we could potentially get to help with funding for that road down to the Cox's property with his deal's already locked in and they're going construction. So to make sure that we capitalize on whatever we can for that road infrastructure down there. Because that development, that area is going to continue to want to grow in this way. And that's in our future land use plan. It's laid out as industrial ground to be put in down there. And I think what we're seeing from the interest, the success of the industrial park we've already had down there, and then the interest of the other property owners, we'll continue to see businesses want to locate in that area.
What's the distance on the additional paving that you'd need?
I couldn't tell you the distance.
Quarter mile?
Probably,
Okay.
down to John Cox's, yeah.
Yeah, I'll say my property, that frontage road there's like 1,300 feet. My frontage road, so, and John's is, I think, the same size of property, so probably 2,600 feet.
It sure cleaned that area up with that paving on there, didn't it?
Yes, it did, yeah. Yes, it did. Yeah, I think it would do. I think, and the only spots that, like if it rained, a little bit of gravel can track onto the pavement, and so once in a while we go clean that up. But, you know, with getting the pavement to the south of all of our properties, that would reduce a lot of that
Yeah.
traffic going from gravel to paving. Yeah.
Anybody wants to speak?
Is there anyone else that would like to speak in favor of the ordinance change? Is there anyone who'd like to speak against it? Okay, right.
I don't want to speak against it, but I brought up this concern to Matt, to Buck. More people, their family, and people.
Brian, you want to start by giving your name and
Oh.
address, please?
Brian Easton. And you want my address? Business address?
Yes.
Okay, 13511 192nd Street,
Council.
Council Bluffs, Highway 503.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. Skip over that part. Anyway, I'm not against what Buck and his family wants to do. They're good people, they're good neighbors, always have been. You can consider them friends of mine. My concern is still that we're getting ahead of ourselves with the infrastructure that's down there. Nothing's been done with the infrastructure as far as improving the traffic in and out of that area. Okay, there's got to be a plan made somewhere. Those lights up at Lewis Central, Susan and I have had a lot of dialogue about it. And it's a very unsafe corner the way it is right now with the amount of traffic. It's just my concern. It's not my concern that he's gonna do what he's gonna do. My concern is the traffic. That we don't have the solution before we start in. And it's a major concern. You know, it wasn't that long ago that I was the only one down there. And, you know, with the new industrial park just north of me, and I was for that. I stood up and spoke in Buck's favor when he zoned that property across the road from me. I'm not against it. I'm just against any more traffic.
Brian, when they were building that and they were adding that paving there, we talked about going clear to the exit down south of there.
But you know, you think about that. One is that road, if you ever drove it, is not a good road. It's got lots of curves in it.
Yeah.
It is not a good road. And it literally, right now, driving down there and driving right back to the point of exit where you're at takes 15, 20 minutes. Okay. When you run trucks, when you run employees, you run everything, that's a lot of time. That's not, to me, it's not a reasonable thing to do. It needs to be brought around behind the school. The entrance to what I call the middle school on the hill, that entrance needs to be moved so that's a T intersection and not a four-way intersection. It's just the amount of school traffic that's there, you know,
Yeah.
combined with industrial traffic, which is trucks, trailers, heavy equipment, you know, now the buses, you know, we lost Lewis Central, but we gained more than twice that with the city buses. Anyway, it's just a major concern of mine, the amount of traffic is there. And the traffic that comes out of the middle school is not courteous whatsoever. They're all about getting their kids in there and getting out of it. They don't have any respect for the traffic trying to turn that corner. So there's 2 hours a day that are just almost impossible, you know, turn there by Tasty Tree.
Mhm.
So that's my concern.
Would that be a state study?
It's a combination of either state, the city, the county, and we need probably MAPA to facilitate it.
I think it's a good issue to bring up before there was, the transportation committee that's run out of the chamber up there would be a good spot for us to start with that because there is so many partners with the city and the county and the state all having to come together on that part of it and, just make sure that we work towards better solutions than that. But I do think, one time the board did talk about that we really do need to look to the south there and continuing that road all the way down through. And while it may not alleviate all of the it would help out with some of those traffic capabilities because like I said, that area is developing. I'm just on the spots now. With the Cox's property, we are adding more trucks down there and that's just their ability to do so. So
Between the morning drop off and afternoon pickup, that extra little time might be worth going down to that exit at that time. Cause I've been caught in that traffic several times.
It's
Crazy.
But then when I brought this up with Susan too, the other concern is to talk about that property right across from me to the west,
Yeah.
which the school is, and that would just be a disaster. That would literally be a disaster down there. And, I'm still, from the day that they started development down there and running all of that traffic past the school, it's just a major concern of mine.
I agree with you.
It's not if, it's when something's gonna happen. And, just very concerned.
And I just can't believe it would be that difficult to get a left turn arrow installed on that light without having to spend a whole lot of study time and.
Well, you and I have spoke about it, and I said, by the aerial map, you could take that middle school traffic and take it on down what I call 275 Perry Langdon Boulevard and bring it in on its own entrance down there. So it's just a three-way corner, a T, instead of a four-way, and get that traffic off that light and take that pressure off that light, to me, would be tremendous help. No, don't pave all the way down to the Bellevue Road, get that entrance from that middle school, push down a couple hundred yards, quarter of a mile. I don't know if you want to call it east or south,
Mhm.
and bring it in down there so that get rid of that cross traffic or turning traffic out of school.
I was gonna say, this was a concern of mine as well. I went with, especially when the school was looking to buy that property that he was talking about to the north of me. So I met with Brent Hastings there, the superintendent. I called him up and wanted to talk to him about it because I had the same idea of, I mentioned to him about going to the city. So me and him went and met with the city. The city really doesn't have the engineers right now for it. They say they don't have them, and it's hard to get them. So they've been kind of taking on that responsibility themselves, they said. But we went and met down there with Mark Augustine and another guy in there, and discussed the traffic. But I think something big for the development of Council Bluffs would be to try to help push along. I know this requires cooperation with DOT, private city and county and everything, but if you were to get an exit south of us down there off that interstate, I think that would spur a lot of development and that would, and that would reroute a lot of truck traffic down that way, and be good for, the school potentially going into the north of us. It'd be better anyway. I still think something needs done, because even if you direct all of our truck traffic to the south, let's just say the exit went in and went south, Blue Central's always had a problem there with traffic. And so especially if they had Crefton, moving Crefton there to the north of us, they're just going to further increase that. So I think something still needs to be done there with potentially widening that road in there. And then as far as truck traffic, I think if you put an exit down to the south there, that would not only direct us, but it would spur further development and investment here.
And that'd be federal. Or,
Yeah, so I'm sure there's a lot of
Federal,
cooperation there that have to happen.
oh, yeah.
It's a big task, yeah.
Can I ask a question? Would it be better to have a traffic study done and a plan in place before we do anything along these lines? I mean, would would you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Suggest
Yeah,
that?
I mean,
Because, it looks like a several years process here with
Yeah.
what you're talking about, traffic flow
right.
and maybe if things can happen, that'd be great, but if not, maybe you would rethink doing anything with this property. So,
Right.
okay.
Yeah, and I think, and you can do a traffic study, it'll vary, as far as, and especially when the school gets in. So with my development here, it'll have businesses, but it's not gonna change it like what that school will change, to the north of us with all the parents coming, dropping off, picking up school buses, everything else. So that'll really, drastically change it. So basically you can do when they do their traffic study, I would say evaluate what there is now and then try to anticipate traffic based upon what is currently going towards Creft and figure that traffic's gonna be rerouted too. And that way you get the whole equation of what's coming.
And it could be incorporated in the traffic study.
Yep, exactly.
Current traffic flow and future.
Yep.
Is
Anticipation.
that school property, that little triangle to the south there? Brian, do you know?
That little triangle to the south, that's a John Cox property. One,
No, I'm talking up by the school on the hill.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, to the southeast of or to the east of their current entrance. Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
That is, yes.
There's some trees in
What he
there.
was talking about moving their entrance. It is, pretty sure.
Yeah, Susan and I have looked at the aerial on it, and it goes down quite a ways.
Okay.
Yep.
And it's fairly flat. I mean, when I say that, to me, it's doable. Because right now they come off a pretty darn steep hill into that light.
Full speed.
Full speed. They're getting out of there.
I think if you could move that entrance down, they said a quarter of a mile down southeast and bring in that traffic in and out of there and not make that a four-way intersection, but a T, I think would help tremendously
Okay.
and be the cheapest route to go. You start trying to get the state to bring in an exit after 10 years of environmental impact studies, we'll all be dead.
That's true. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
that's why I brought it up to you guys, because the more help try to get it to push, you almost need everyone's help because it's a tough task to do. But it would be, I think, greatly beneficial to the entire area.
So Matt, will you help me tee up a task force so we can figure out what the next steps could be? And
yeah, I'll reach out to Chris and see if we can get one of the transportation committee members to put together.
great, thank you. All right, did anybody else want to speak against the project? Against the ordinance change? All right, hearing none. Somebody want to make a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make a motion to close public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Jorgensen, second by Belt to close the public hearing. Becky, roll call, please.
Yes, Chairperson Miller,
Aye.
Supervisors Jorgensen,
Aye.
Shay,
Aye.
Belt,
Aye.
Wickman.
Aye.
Right.
Matt, if I can, that's within the 2 mile limit of the city.
It is
They'll have jurisdiction on this.
on the subdivision aspect of it, whether or not they let them subdivide it is up to the city council.
So that you're talking about coming back with a plat approval of some sort.
Only if the city decides to sign off on the subdivision of the ground. If it would say if the city says, no, we don't want to subdivide it, it still leaves Mr. Morris with some options of doing a condo agreement down there and still allowing a couple of different buildings to be constructed. This only part that the city has is whether or not it can be split. If he decides to go without a split, then he can keep it as his 35 acres that he has now. But if he wants to divide it into smaller lots, then the city has to sign up on approval.
With the Armstrong development, there were some requirements the city put on that if they added water. Sewer, I think they had to hook up.
The water was there, so that they have water. It was if, when and if they get city sewer to come by, that they'll voluntarily annex it into the city.
That'll be the same thing with this parcel.
If you can work out the same deal with the city, yes, that would be the same similar situation. But as, so the planning commission, we did have these kind of same discussions with the planning commission about the traffic that we had down that area. And it is a complication that I think every jurisdiction runs into with infrastructure. You need the development to pay for the infrastructure. It's hard to put infrastructure in there ahead of time. Then just have that infrastructure just sitting, no development happening. So we talked about all those different considerations of it, but at the end, the planning commission did recommend approval of to the board of supervisors, their approval of the zoning change.
Well, I think it's probably about time to start a traffic study. This isn't the first time that this has come up, even with our rural subdivisions that are going out off of Pioneer Trail area. That same conversation came up about the traffic there at the school. So I will agree with Brian that if we're going to try to work with the state to get something off the interstate, everybody in the room will probably be dead before something like that happens. We probably need to consider some other way to.
The traffic study did come up I was at a meeting of MAPA last week and they were talking about so Iowa, the last year Iowa did their traffic study was during COVID-19. So they didn't publicize that data. They said it was not worth putting it out there for it. So this year the traffic study is happening again. So we should have some relevant numbers to operate off of all of our different projects that we have.
If we do look at, put a study team together, we'll take a look at the Pioneer Trail entrance too, off of Mary Lane. All right. Matt, is it your recommendation to move forward with the approved first consideration and set the date for Pam? When do you want the next date?
20th, please.
You want it on the 20th at 10? I'll make that motion for you, Susan.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion by Wickman, second by Shay to approve the first consideration of ordinance number 2024-01 to amend the official zoning map of Pottawattamie County, Iowa by changing the district designation from class A3 to class I1. And to set the set the date for second consideration for February 20th at 10 a.m. All right, roll call, please.
Chairperson Miller,
Aye.
Supervisor Shay,
Aye.
Jorgensen,
Aye.
Bill,
Right.
Wickman.
Aye.
All right.
Good.
Next up, we have Matt Wyatt, Director, Planning and Development, public hearing and first consideration of ordinance number 2024-02, an ordinance to amend Pottawattamie County, Iowa zoning ordinance, chapter 8.004.095, accessory dwelling unit, and setting date for second consideration. Motion to go into public hearing.
So move.
Motion by Shay, second by Bell to open the public hearing. Roll call, please, Becky.
Chairperson Miller,
Aye.
Supervisor Jorgensen.
Aye.
Shay.
Aye.
Bill.
Aye.
Wickman.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right.
This is an application that is brought to us was requested by the zoning board of adjustment for Pottawattamie County in relation to our accessory dwelling units. Currently, accessory dwelling units were new to Pottawattamie County in 2015. Was done with our land use plan update. As requested by a number of residents, we were getting more and more requests from people wanting to build secondary homes on their parcels. You can refer to them as teen quarters, guest house, granny flats, cottage houses, all kinds of different names that they put forward. And so the code section that we came up with at that time, it defined an accessory dwelling unit as a secondary living unit on a single family lot. An ADU contains its own kitchen, sleeping area, and bathroom facilities. ADUs shall be detached from the primary residential unit. ADUs are subordinate in size, location, and appearance to the primary dwelling unit. ADUs are commonly referred to as mother-in-law apartments, elder cottage housing opportunities, guest houses, caretaker cottages, or carriage houses. They are permitted in Class A, R1, R2, and R3 districts. And the section of it that we've come into a struggle with on these was that our original footprint of these is section 0.03 of the code. The total maximum square footage of the ADU shall not exceed the lesser of 600 square feet or 50% of the square footage of the primary structure, excluding garages, carports. And the minimum square footage of an ADU shall not be less than 260 square feet. This by building code and be able to limit something that's going to be 260 square feet or bigger. But 600 square foot footprint of a place where it was allowing people to go up or go down with that, you can wind up with a total of 600 square feet. But when people look at constructing these, they're either constructing them so the parents can move into it, or they can bring elderly family member out there. And when you look at a zero entry place and being able to have mobility issues, putting something like that into a 600 square foot footprint wound up to be too hard of an obstacle to overcome. If you're looking at a power motorized chair or a wheelchair or whatever the case may be, you just can't fit the size of bathroom that you need in there for a person like that, or the kitchen area, living area. And so we were getting people coming to the zoning board of adjustment, asking for variances to this. And previous to our having an ADU on there, people used to be able to go to the zoning board of adjustment and ask for a conditional use to place a secondary home on their parcel for that reason, under the guise that whenever that person either passed away or was moved into another facility, that modular home had to go away. And so after going back through and re-looking at this was really the initial approach to this was kind of a one size fit all. Didn't matter how many acres you had over the double minimum lot size, you were just stuck at a maximum of 600 square foot of living footprint that you could work with. Well, when you look at the different parcel sizes, and if you have somebody with 8 acres, you know, maybe 600 square feet might be appropriate to size towards that style of house. But if you have somebody with 20 acres who wants to be able to put something out there, maybe you got something a little bit larger. So on our second review of this, what the proposed amendment to it was that would read like this for section 0.03, the minimum total square footage of an ADU shall not be less than 260 square feet. The total square footage of an ADU shall be limited as follows. We broke it out into acreage sizes. And A is the double the minimum lot size required by code, up to 8 acres, shall not exceed the lesser of 800 square feet or 50% of the primary structure, excluding carports and garages. 8 to 12 acres shall not exceed the lesser of 1,000 square feet or 50% of the primary structure, excluding garages and carports. 12 acres plus shall not exceed the lesser of 1,200 square feet or 50% of the primary structure, excluding garage and carport. And we think that that would get us where we need to be for the residents when they're coming in and requesting these. So that's our proposal.
So what happens when this property sells after these people have passed or gone to a nursing home or something? What happens then?
The only way you can build an ADU on a parcel is if it can't be split. So if that parcel is going to get sold, you are now buying a place that has an ADU. You're buying both houses. You're not going to separate them out, because if it can be split, then we want you to split it ahead of time. There's other requirements on there too.
Everybody, apologize for
But is that they have to share a drive. So that was something the supervisor Belt, as we've talked about over the years, number of concerns, the number of road cuts that we're getting put in for driveways. So as part of the ADU ordinance reads that they have to share the same drive.
Matt, supposedly that if a structure like that was built for like a parent, then that parent either goes to assisted living or passes on, and that structure sits there, can they then rent that out?
They can't.
They can. Okay, so there's going to be no limitations as far as what it can be used for, but it originally was used for, you know, a dependent person.
Right, we didn't put those kind of restrictions on the ADUs. It does say in there that you can't, the only thing, I think you cannot use it as a bed and breakfast, but it can be used as a rental.
We are in public hearing. Is there anyone from the public who'd like to speak in favor of the ordinance change? Is there anyone on the phone that wants to speak to the ordinance? Is there anyone opposed who would like to bring their comments forth? Hearing none.
I'll move to close.
I got a question, Matt, before you close it. Do we have an idea how many ADUs we have out there now?
Yeah, that's, we're around 5 or 6.
Okay,
I think people found out that the financing is a little bit tougher than what they originally thought it was gonna be, because you would think, a lot of people thought, well, it's my parents are gonna move out there, my parents are just gonna get a loan, they're gonna build a house. Banks won't loan you money to build a house on someone else's property, so it's all down on one.
thank you.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Wickman, second by Shay to close the public hearing. Becky, will you call the roll, please?
Chairperson Miller,
Aye.
Supervisors Wickman.
Aye.
Belt,
Aye.
Shay,
Hi,
Jorgensen.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional thoughts, questions?
Matt. What determines whether or not, let me change that. Do they have to have their own well and septic?
Their own septic, they can share a well.
Is that, doesn't say that here in this, what you provided us, but it's in the code.
It's in the entire section, yeah.
Okay.
All right, and you would like to do a second consideration on February 20th on this one as well?
Yes.
Looking for a motion.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Shay, second by Jorgensen to approve the first consideration of ordinance number 2024-02 to amend Pottawattamie County, Iowa zoning ordinance, chapter 8.004.095 accessory dwelling unit, and to set the date for second consideration for February 20th at 10 a.m. Becky?
Chairperson Miller,
Aye.
Supervisors Jorgensen,
Aye.
Shay,
Aye.
Belt.
Aye.
Wickman.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have Tammy Willett and Terry Gleaves and Laura Munson from East Pottawattamie County Soil and Water. And I asked Terry and Tammy to come to the board. We received notice a couple of weeks ago that the beaver bounty allocation of $5,000 for this season was almost used up. And we were like, is it making a difference? Do we need to extend the funding? Do we just need to pay it out for this year and be done with it? And we asked the experts to come and tell us what your thoughts are on the program, if it's working or not.
Thank you for the opportunity. I discussed with other board members and we feel at this time that it's been a very successful program, but we're winding down on this year's window of when the trappers can harvest. And so we would like to just use up the rest of the funds and then reassess for next year. So the one thing I would like to request support for is just to make sure that we're being fiscally responsible, that there's 3 sites where the park rangers, the tails turned into. If we could get your support and just have them do maybe a 10% audit of the ones that were turned in, just to make sure that we're, having the trappers are turning in the right township and stuff like that, just so we can report back to you guys if that would be acceptable.
Yeah, because we have collected the township information.
And so we just felt since the park rangers were the one doing the screenings as far as where they got them and the questions that we originally on the form, that would be a good thing for them to do, just because you are going on a private property. And so them coordinating with, where these were harvested at.
Okay.
And I can work offline, but, as far as like who I would contact to arrange that, to have the park rangers.
We would, need to bring Mark
Shoot,
into this conversation and make sure that it's one, something that's needed, number two, something they can handle or have the time to do.
we just,
Have you
Do you
seen a
just
big,
have designated people to take that, or is it any of the rangers that were there that day handles it?
Any of the rangers that
Any
are on
of-
duty that day.
that's what we think.
But there's a form, right,
yes.
Right.
There's a
that
form,
the landowner was supposedly supposed to sign off on, right?
and I sent you the link to that spreadsheet
Right.
yesterday with all of the information. And
Have you
Most
seen a
of the
big
names on
difference?
there I recognize, so.
I think some of the spots that we showed you guys on the
Yeah.
legislative tour, some of those, they move. It's a
Oh, yeah.
moving target, and depending on water and, and the rivers and the creeks. So I think we just need to do due diligence and keep an eye on them and so.
Beaver pelts at one point were very valuable. They have a value anymore these days?
There
Can
is,
they be sold?
they do take them up in Denison is my understanding.
Okay.
And I don't know, probably depending on size, quality, that type of thing.
Feast Fur Company, I believe, was the name at
Yeah.
one time.
I think I heard they're worth $20,
Worth $20.
Right.
It
which
used to be
is
worth-
better than it had been for quite a while.
Years ago, it was considerably more. I mean, beaver pelts were.
Right.
So was that $20, Terry, with or without the tail?
Don't know the answer there.
Hopefully without, huh?
Yeah.
Tammy, I agree with you and your board's assessment of that. We'll just, when the funds are gone for this year, that will be it.
That's fine.
You think you think it's working and it's something that you'd like to have the board consider continuing?
Yeah, I do, and we'll continue to do our piece on the education and, out to the landowners. But yeah, I feel like it's helping.
I received a couple calls from landowners this year saying they had a problem. And I explained that we had this program. They were unaware. And told them a couple names of trappers that were doing it. So the word's starting to get out there better. I think it's just gonna be more successful every year now.
So Susan, are you looking for a motion to continue this for the next trapping season?
Yes.
Well,
Is that, I didn't know if it was after.
Did you say run the money out
for
and
this
and
year.
reassess?
Run the money out for this year and then it starts November 15th of next year. So.
Because this year we had 5,000 allocated and your recommendation for next year may be 7,500 or depending on what the needs are. I think we need to bring it back in
I think.
late summer.
If we could get the 5,000 and then we can reassess late December with that. Or would it be,
I would like to see your opinion of the results. That's the current
What's the
results.
balance?
And then we can determine what to do at that point. That's my.
It was 425, so it went down to 250.
Mhm.
So that's 10 more.
Right.
10 more be tail?
And we can have our GIS mapping out or identify the townships where they were taken this time and we can see if it's covering the whole county or if there's some spots we need to target. So. Yeah, so today's purpose was just for figuring out what to do for funding for the rest of this season, which ends April 2024. So I don't think there's any action that's taken at this time. Great. Thank you for coming in.
Absolutely.
Thanks, you guys.
What's that? Well, I think, I don't remember, but, it should be in there for 5,000 for next year. I mean, if they request that to be increased a little bit, I mean, that's something we can discuss at a later day. I mean, I think the funding's coming out of gaming. So an additional 25,000 or whatever think you need is something that we can probably handle, as you said, November, December area.
How much is left now in that account?
$250.
$250?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so pretty close to what, 100 beaver tails?
10. Oh,
If you spent 5,000, you have 250 left at $50 a tail.
25.
Oh, I'm sorry.
25 a ton.
Okay, all right.
It'd be 200.
So 200, okay.
One guy brought in quite a handful, didn't he?
Well, November,
Oh.
December was good as
Right.
far as nothing was froze. And so they really had the ability to get out there and do some trapping. It's all, a lot of it varies with the weather.
They took us on a bus trip last year, showed us streams, roads, fields, and the damage they do. And it was an eye opener for me. I didn't realize that much damage could happen.
moving on. Discussion on annual review of the 28E agreement with West Pottawattamie County Soil and Water Conservation District and East Pottawattamie County Soil and Water Conservation District for the funding, administration, and implementation of the full-time conservation education coordinator position. And Laura Munson is that coordinator. A couple of weeks ago, Tim and I attended the East Pot Soil and Water annual meeting and got to see Laura's presentation on what she's doing out in the school districts. And I would like her to give us, the whole board, that update today.
Yes, I think we have the presentation.
And we have an existing 28E agreement that requires an annual review. So that's the only purpose we're here for today. The funding is already set up. It's just an annual review. Just working his magic.
Just getting used to the new stuff there.
May have to wing it.
That's all.
Yes, it's in the essence of time.
Yeah. Okay, yes, so, a version of this position has existed for over 30 years, but, thanks to you all, the last, about year and a half, I've been full-time. And so we've been able to grow our, programs to reaching over 1,000 students just with our in-class programs, which doesn't include all of the kind of outside events that we're doing. So right now I am at,
There we go.
so then to be next slide. And then, yes, so position has existed for over 30 years. And my focus, I see it as leading an education program and public outreach program focused on conservation, agriculture, and land and stewardship. And my kind of passion with this work is sparking a curiosity for the environment and for conservation in students and in the community. And then, so we are at HSTW, Riverside, Tri-Center, Trainer, Underwood, Carter Lake, Crescent, Heartland Christian, and we work with Lewis Central as well. And we are also going to be working with Underwood Elementary soon here. And so in the last year and a half, we've reached over 1,000 students. And my programs offer a wide array of lessons covering conservation, agriculture, soil, farming, conservation practices. Kind of, I pitch them to the teachers as a kind of conservation and environmental umbrella, and what they have in their curriculum is what they kind of send me or pick from our list of programs to bring into their classroom. And then, so we've done STEM Fest at HSTW. We did a soil kind of information table at that. And then I also lead the Conservation Superheroes Club, and that is at HSTW and Riverside. And that is in partnership with the Farm Bureau. And then we also did the CDI poster contest last year, and we had three grades from Riverside and then one grade from HSTW and one grade from Trainer participated in that contest. And picked the winners, and they had a really great time doing it all. We did experiments in their classroom to connect it to water conservation. And then they took that information that they learned in those lessons and made their posters for that. And then we also do a lot outside of the classroom to get them into nature and to experience the outdoors. We have our Trees for Threes program with HSTW and Riverside Third, where they all get to take home a native Iowa tree to plant it at their homes. We also do the Bottom Bend 5th grade day. And that is just a day full of the students going around to different stations and learning about different areas of conservation in the environment. And then we also did the Trainer Arbor Day with the 5th grade students there, and we're doing that again this year. So we planted 10 trees last year with them, and we're looking at planting another 10 trees this year around on the school grounds. And then we also did the Corey Day with the Riverside 4th graders and HSTW 4th graders. And then we did a field day at Viking Lake. And at both of those days, we did a pond study. So looking at different kind of talking about the different kind of microbiomes of ponds and like that and how they affect an environment. And then we do more outside soil pits with high schoolers. We did that last year and we did that this year. This year we had a really great turnout. We had about 35 to 40 kids join us for that. We also did the Karsten's Farms Kids Day where we brought the soil health tunnel and they learned all about soil health and what soil does for us. And then in partnership with Pottawattamie County Conservation, we've also done School of the Wild. And led a station about how to canoe and about the kind of ecosystem of ponds and lakes. And then there was a 5th grade ag field day, again in partnership with the Farm Bureau that we did. And that was with the soil health tunnel again. And then we also have in the summer, we continue our programs and started a garden club. We also are at the East and West Pot Fair. Brought the soil health tunnel to both of those this last year. We also do summer camps in partnership with Pottawattamie County Conservation. And this year we're starting something new and we'll have 4 new summer camps at Bottom Bend Park for 1st through 6th graders. So that's a new partnership that we began. And then I also participate in the Riverside Child Care Program. And then we also do a lot with community outreach, not just school age students. So we have a women landowners meeting that we do yearly. This year we went on a tour of the county, much like the tour that you all went on, and went to Wheeler Grove, which was a prairie, looked at dry hydrants and wetlands. And then there's also a SWISH kind of organization or club meeting that I take part in. And that's just all about connecting with producers and to talk about soil health and to improve soil health on their farms. And then we also have participated in the Pollinator Palooza and will be at Our Community Reads event at the Council Bluffs Public Library this year. And I believe they said they had about 700 people attend their Pollinator Palooza last year. So it should be a good turnout for this one.
Laura, are you putting any adult education together for water conservation? Yes, so Our Community Reads kind of event is all about how water connects us all. So we're planning on talking a lot about water conservation at that event. And then we always include water conservation in the women landowner meeting. And that's part of kind of the SWISH producer talks too, is talking about how to cut tillage. Great. And thank you.
Very much for supporting my position and for supporting this. I've had such a great support from all of the teachers that I've worked with too. And the kids really seem to love this program. So I can't thank you enough for allowing me to do this.
Seems like I see you everywhere. There's kids always swarming around you, just wanting to learn more and.
Yes, it's my favorite part of the job. It's.
My granddaughter was in one of your deals.
Oh,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, she's pretty excited about it.
Good, I'm glad.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Laura?
Oh, keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Question for Cammy.
Yeah.
Got a question for Cammy. The board, the county provides $80,000 for that position. What's the balance look like in that account? You bring that with you?
I did not,
Okay,
but I will report out to you in the meeting on the 20th.
you're awesome. Okay. Do it.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Thank
Thanks,
Yep,
Tammy.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. It's a neat program.
Gary and Cammy, what if I can just one more before you take off? We got our fund balances this morning in your local option sales tax, 802,000. How much of that have you got committed? Any idea?
At this time, I am not sure. I mean, for like the spring and,
Yeah, you know, your cost share program.
right,
That kind of stuff.
yeah. Normally, like just when the weather starts warming up, when we start getting those applications for spring work. So, I mean, I know we've gotten a couple come in, started. Usually spring, we may do 50 to 70,000. Summer, not a lot, depends on the year, but 30, 40. Fall is always our big time year when we do most of the work.
I would anticipate with the weather being the way it is now, that, I mean, there's people in the field I just saw doing things right now. So, doesn't happen very often in February, but it is. So it's depending on weather. I would anticipate that our spring will have more spring projects.
Is the frost all gone?
Very
Oh,
much
there
out
isn't
there.
much, no.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Thanks for
Thank you.
coming in.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Next up, discussion and or decision to approve reappointment of Bernie Bolden to the Lost Hills Development and Conservation Authority for a term of 2 years. And Bernie wasn't able to be with us today. He's recovering from shoulder surgery. And this is one of the appointments. His term ended 12/31/23, and we just need to extend him for another
I'll
2
make that
years.
motion.
I'll second.
All right, motion by Shay, second by Jorgensen.
Does he know he's getting?
Yes.
You should have attended the meeting, huh?
We have a motion and a second to approve reappointment of Bernie Bolton. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you.
Thanks for making the drive in, you guys.
You bet. Thank you.
All right, next up, Steve Whitchell, Captain for the jail. Update on the U.S. Marshals federal contract for the jail.
Morning, Steve. Yeah.
So obviously you guys know this has been an ongoing process for us. We finally were able to reach a conclusion. We feel that we ended up in a very good spot with how the contract ended. So as you all know, we're at 110 a day. We knew that that wasn't covering our cost. And so we went, our company, an average increase, and where we settled is 150 a day. That's where we ended up. So we had almost a 40% increase, 7-ish. And we did seek a little bit more than that because we know that the state 3-year term, we'll do this again in 3 years. So we communicated with them. Our concern was, is this going to get us to our 3rd year? And when we sat down and started looking at what others in the state are at, We are $45 a day more than anybody else in the state of Iowa. So the next closest to us is 105 a day. So we ran the risk, we tried to increase more. We run the risk of having what they call a needs study for the federal government, not what the needs of inmate are, is whether or not they need us. And they run the risk of actually reducing that because they may come in and say, actually, we could go here as opposed to you guys, and you guys are going to work to us. So
Steve, we were looking at what, 160 something?
that was our goal,
Okay,
to work in also the transports, and they had some audits on their end and they don't do that anymore. So they keep them, the transports to the per diem are separate. We were hoping to get them to be combined, but that's not possible anymore. So with that, we got a nearly 70% increase on our transport rates. So we were at 35, we bumped that to 59, 69.
You had some consultants helping you with this
Yes.
negotiation, right?
Yep,
Okay.
these
They were,
people-
they were very helpful, obviously.
Wonderful to work with. They represent multiple agencies in the state of Iowa and across the country. So they were a wealth of information. So we had a lot of back and forth with those folks. So they were a huge help. It was worth our time to go with those folks.
What was the number for the transport?
So we were at 35 a day.
Yeah,
Let me rephrase that, 35 an hour. They would reimburse us. We got that to 59, 69.
okay.
So we had a nearly 70% increase on our
That's,
transport.
that's an hour per
Per
hour.
hour. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, so we had a big quite an increase there.
couple big wins there.
Yeah, we think this will get us through our 3-year contract and do this all over again. So that's where we're at.
That's
So we are
effective,
significantly higher than anybody else in the state of Iowa.
that's effective when?
February 1st.
February 1st? Okay,
So, and then that also applies to the IGA intergovernmental agreement that will apply to any other federal base that we house with our immigration and our Bureau of Prisons people. They basically ride on the coattails of US Marshals, say that they're gonna pay. So that's an increase for everybody at the feds.
Steve, you say we're locked in 3 years?
Yep, 36 is their usual with
Okay,
US Marshals.
then we can renegotiate.
so is there a guarantee on beds on that?
We do guarantee 25. We're way above that, but that's what we guarantee.
25?
We're closer to 100 typically.
February 1st of what year?
2 weeks ago.
Okay.
I was able to sit down with Mitch and he's aware of everything. So
What, when, in that negotiation period, what did you identify as our cost per day?
136.
And we're now at, what was it?
150.
150. So this will mark the first time in how long? 10, 15, 20 years that we're actually getting paid.
Yeah, I don't have that answer, but long time. I don't know exactly, but
So the taxpayers aren't supporting federal prisoners
correct.
anymore,
Correct.
which is about time.
I agree with you.
I do too.
And, you know, our taxpayers deserve the reduction in the levy for those extra funds. Would you agree with that, Steve?
I would agree with you.
Okay.
There's more I'd like to say, but I think our staff need to convert some of that. I've told you guys already, we need to convert some of this increase into our staff. Our staff have done an unbelievable job with the changes we put in place in the last 2 years. And it's been a lot. And with this increase, we hope to work into staff positions, communicate with you guys what those needs are. So we will come back probably in April-ish to give you those reasons and what that looks like for us. We're looking forward. We don't want to just sit here and just keep pouring work on our staff. We want to give additional help there. So we'll come back in a couple of months and revisit and be with you guys again. So
I'll have some questions for you
I
when that time comes.
expect nothing less.
Okay. Did our legal team have a chance to review that? And you're comfortable for it? I know when I spoke to you, they were going to eliminate the transports. They decided against that.
We pursued that hard. They told us Washington DC headquarters is not allowed to do that. They have to keep those separate. Transports are separate from the per diem rate. Our goal was to get rid of billing them and get a higher per diem, they would not allow it. It's impossible.
When do you, if I could ask, maybe you don't even, maybe you don't know, Steve, when you make a transport, let's say February 1st, when do you bill for that?
We do that paperwork, through the end of that pay period, because that money goes through, because we pay them our overtime for the transport officer. We will then turn around and bill them separately. So I don't know if it's exactly that pay period or when we do it later, but
We get those funds reimbursed, what, 6 months down the road, or,
no, it's a quick turnaround.
oh, is it?
Yep.
That's awesome. Okay, well, I appreciate your efforts on that, Steve. I'm really happy that you were actually above our costs. And like I said, for the first time that I can remember.
Yeah, I'll just finish this. There's another county in the east side of the state, and headquarters return negotiation was less than their cost per day. And so they forced the sheriff to make a decision of come get your inmates, or we're going to continue to operate. And I was told the sheriff on the east side of the state, told them come get your inmates, we're not going to continue. And so, and they know what that cost per day is, so we're well above it, so they didn't do that to us. My interpretation is they need us more on this side of the state than they needed on that side of the state. But they held to their number and said, we're not going to give you what your cost per day is. They came back, final offer was below the cost per day. That sheriff said, come get them.
What's your experience with federal prisoners? Are they more destructive? Are they more violent? Are they have more mental health issues? I mean, anything along those lines that causes more problems?
Inmates are inmates. They're more needy because they know that they get different perks. That's the right way to say it, and what the state requires. So the feds have different, we play by different rules by having a federal contract. So they get more things guaranteed to them. So, but overall, inmates are inmates. We manage them, and the Bureau of Prison inmates can be a little more difficult just because of their history and their time in the facility. But the feds guys don't usually like coming back to county jail. County jail life is different than what they're used to. So time and send them on the way.
Do we have a copy of the contract then, Steve?
I don't. I brought one. I can leave it with Jeanette.
Okay,
If you guys would like it.
perfect,
Please.
I didn't attach it to the email when I reached out to her. It's my fault.
perfect. Thank you. Good job.
It was a big win.
Yeah, we think it's a good thing. It's good for us.
So you have a separate contract with the state?
So the way the state works is when the inmate gets sentenced, we can start billing, but our goal is because they only pay us 50 a day. The state only pays that. So as soon as they get sentenced, they're on the list to get off the next bus. We try to house them for less than a week, but it might bleed into the following week, depending on what the bus trip goes. So they become ours for a short time after sentencing.
Is that a negotiable fee?
No,
Tim's been trying that for a long time, so.
you know, the only thing we could do is put them on a bus and send them to the Capitol.
Yeah.
That's probably about it.
So we do, because of that, we get them out as soon as we possibly can. They don't stay with us for long after sentencing, so. Sheila?
Thank you.
Great.
Lee.
Thank you.
Yes.
You guys a couple months. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, next up,
Yeah.
Jason Slack, Director Buildings and Grounds, and Steve Winchell, Captain Jail, discussion and or decision on awarding the security maintenance contract for fiscal year 24-25.
Hi.
Hi, Jason.
So, we worked with ETI and they wrote us up an RFP. And this has been out to bid a couple times. The first time we sent bids out, low bid was $80,000 a year. So we went back to the drawing board and tried to figure out where, we can make some cost savings. We kind of added some verbiage and explained some things a little bit better in the RFP, so the companies could get us a more whittled down number. Low bid this time was $16,156 per year for the security maintenance agreement, and that covers the Genetec Advantage work program. And then firmware updates.
You said 16?
Yeah, 16,000. So, we're just looking ahead to next fiscal years because we're gonna need this. We're gonna need to be able to get our firmware updates and our upgrades and stuff on time. And this covers all county buildings right now. So it'll cover the jail, it'll cover the courthouse, annex building, everything except for the roads operations center and the public health building, because those are still under construction. Generally, those will have a 1-year warranty period once they're completed, so we don't need to worry about them quite yet.
You've got the Hancock shop building, but you don't have the other secondary roads buildings.
Yeah, they don't have any other security equipment in any other buildings yet, just the Hancock shop.
Sure is a big difference in price, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Well, and we were able to save a considerable amount of money because we plan on doing all of the on-site work as far as camera adjustments or work to a lock. We'll do that in-house ourselves. So basically, we'll just need a programmer on the phone to program the back end of things. We'll do everything out in the field in-house.
Well, I like that number and I'll make a motion to approve.
But, why is conservation not part of this then?
Not yet. They don't have anything in here. I think Mark does plan on adding some stuff, but we'll have to cross that bridge when we get there.
I'll second that motion.
Is that, this outfit similar to what you use, David, this Engineer Technology Inc.? You use them too?
I haven't used them directly, but I've worked with them indirectly on some of our projects, like the new roads building.
Okay.
So how many cameras do you have, the remote sites?
Total or
Yes, total. And that's throughout the county.
500, I guess.
And they're all operational?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay.
Steve, why are you listed as a presenter on this agenda item?
There was a group of us that helped Jason go through this RFP, and sounds very good to be here. I got the nod to sit here with him.
So the jail and sheriff's office is a huge stakeholder in the security surveillance piece of it. So I wanted to make sure that they were involved.
We'll probably work out those cameras.
The other half.
Is there anything in the specifications for the bid on this project that the feds required for housing prisoners? I was looking for a way to pay for it out of that new money you got.
This is just a 1-year contract.
Yeah, 24, 25 starts in July 1.
All right, we have a motion by Shea, a second by Jorgensen to approve the security maintenance contract for fiscal year 24-25 to ET Engineering Technologies, Inc. Is that not, who are we presenting it to?
Oh, sorry, Electric Company of Omaha.
Electric Company of Omaha.
Did you get that?
Yeah, I think you already had it.
So that was already budgeted somewhere, right?
It's in Jason's.
So we'll be able to cut his budget.
And give me that dollar amount again, 16,000.
The next time this comes up, considerably higher cost. Is that what I'm hearing?
$16,156.
Hopefully not.
You have, what, 2 new facilities? Next time we meet to discuss, be considerably more because of the additions.
Well, and we'll lose the annex building, but we'll be gaining more security than what we lose on that.
If we add conservation.
Yes, I think we're gonna continue to build this. I think the road shops will, right, start to build on theirs too.
Don't see our risk manager. No, there's our risk manager. I can see where he would think this was a good thing. All right, so we've got a Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you for your efforts on this, Jason and Steve.
In a couple months, Steve.
All right, next, Jason Slack, Director Buildings and Grounds, discussion and or decision on selecting survey services to facilitate dispensing parcel number 744412380001. And this is the property that we cut the trees down on, correct?
Correct. That's how it came about. So board had mentioned, trying to dispose of this property, and disperse it to the adjacent, neighbors. So what I did is I got a hold of, the recorder's office and I asked Kathy if she could help me get a bid to do some survey in order to facilitate that. One of the bids was estimated to be $5,000 from Schneider and Associates. And the other bid was from HDM and Associates, not to exceed $7,800. So Snyder was low bid on that. And I brought the expert here so she could help explain why it's gonna be so much money to do that.
Okay, so it has to be a property line adjustment. It can't just be a split parcel because they talk to the city and they will approve a property line adjustment. They won't approve just the parcel split. So that's why I had to go, because you have to survey all the adjacent properties with our property. So that's why it went up in price.
The intent and the goal here is to get that property out of the county's name and into the private property owners there. You know, we're stuck with a parcel that was picked up years ago by the county. And I hate to spend 5,000, but we'll be able to recover some of those costs when we deed that property to the 3 adjoining property owners, hopefully recover all of it. Who knows, the assessor would be in charge of that, but it could increase the values of some of those properties. And maybe we'll recover those costs over a period of time. If you look at the drawing on the, or the map on the screen, you can see that parcel shaded in yellow goes right through that building. So we are proud owners of part of a building that we shouldn't be. So I'd like for, I know when we talked about this once before, I met with Kathy and Jason about it. I'd like to move forward, get this thing surveyed. I agree with the city in combining, once those parcels are surveyed off, combining them with the parent parcel that will take the surveyed parcel and become one. And I'll make that motion to move forward and contract with Snyder. Is that your recommendation, Kathy?
It's the cheapest. And there's the same product no matter what.
Okay. And work with Snyder to get those, to get this thing out of our neck.
Good. I'd second that.
We have a motion by Wickman, second by Shay to select survey services of Snyder to facilitate dispensing of the parcel.
Can I ask one thing? Kathy, is that 5,000, is that a not to exceed number?
Yeah,
Or is that just an overall?
because they go by hourly, so it's not to be estimated by their hourly fee is 5,000 estimated.
I don't think it's a not to exceed. I think
Yeah.
it's an estimate.
HDM was not to exceed. I think Snyder's was just an estimate.
Because they
did their
pay by the hour, yeah. Or charge by the hour.
So it could come in at 10,000.
Yeah, that.
Can I amend that motion not to exceed 5,000? If it goes over that, they need to come in and see us.
I'll still second it. Mhm.
Okay. Is there any other discussion?
No.
All right, we have a motion by Wickman, a second by Shay. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Glad the extra was here. Thank you, Jason.
Thanks, Kathy, for your help. I really appreciate it. Hey, Andrew, thanks for letting her help us. with this.
All right, Jason, Director Buildings and Grounds, you wanted a discussion or a decision on removal of 2 sidewalks and railings on the west side of the courthouse.
Okay, so this was my PowerPoint presentation and it looked like it moved. But basically, we're looking to get rid of these 2 sidewalks right here.
Pull it up.
So basically, these 2 sidewalks here, we want to eliminate. Leaving this one for egress because the west entry doors were now just for emergency egress only. We thought we'd make it look a little less enticing for people to mistake that as the main entrance to the courthouse. We would remove the sidewalk ourselves and then we bring in some fresh dirt and we would do all the grading ourselves. I spoke with John Rasmussen. He said they would come hydro seed it for us. They've got a hydro seeder. Gotta make that whole area look better.
I think you're right. You stand over there and you watch people try and come in
Yeah.
there all day.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve that.
And that's good. That's us doing all the work. So
Jason, I'm sorely disappointed that I can't enter that entrance anymore. Because where I park, that's the closest entry into the county. So at some point, could that possibly be looked at as an entry for?
that's not my call. You and 75% of, or probably 100% of all the other employees with the county are.
Yeah, we'd certainly would be willing to, okay.
That's actually Court Security's call. I mean, they're saying they could open it, but they would have to hire another deputy to be in that station to watch that door.
Okay.
There was a meeting last week.
Yeah, we haven't had a meeting on that, on court security, on about access inside the courthouse, coming and going, and the risk that poses by having that door open. So it was a high risk.
A high risk? How about a private entry just for me?
You know, that extra,
It'd do you good to walk that extra.
yeah, that extra 50 yards is good for your health, Jeff.
It was cold out there.
Yeah.
Jason, what are we gonna do with the elevation change from the top of the landing of that area to the ground?
What our intent is to have Nashville Concrete come in and cut that steps off of that slab and then put a railing around from column to column inside there and we can see it, but it would be a drop off. We couldn't actually bring the elevation of the dirt up because we have HVAC equipment located underneath that stoop too. So there would be a drop off and we would put a railing is the plan.
Okay. What, when we had the sidewalk removed out front, it was like, I'm not exaggerating, what was it, 4, 5, 6 foot
Oh, yeah,
deep?
the steps were, yeah, they had some big footings underneath.
Do you anticipate that here too?
It could be the case, but either way, I think we're intent on doing it. I don't think it's gonna impede our ability to get that to look right.
So the emergency exit out of the stairs, we would still have a sidewalk to walk on that one, correct?
Correct.
All right, so we have a motion by Shay, second by Bill, to remove the two sidewalks and the railings on the west side of the courthouse.
That's to get bids for that? Is that what you're gonna do?
We're
No, they're doing-
Right?
Okay, what, Susan, you brought up a good point. In the case of an emergency, how do we get handicapped people out of here?
Well, that exit is not a handicap exit anyways. I mean, you've got steps to come straight down out of that door. So, I mean, whether we leave the sidewalks or take them out, you're still gonna have steps there.
Have the ramp out front.
That exit is not a handicap accessible with the right ramp. That's why we had the other ramp put in for constructions. So it's never handicap accessible.
What if there's a fire in the courthouse and it's in the front of the building?
Our secondary means of escape would be the basement.
The basement is the ramp that goes out the south door.
Well, let's, I don't have a problem with taking those sidewalks out. I think we need to take a look at, do we need to put next to those steps heading out down to the sidewalk? We maybe ought to think about putting a ramp there too.
No, we just got rid of the ramp that got of that elevation.
Yeah.
For your percentage of grade that you gotta be at, what is it, 1%? For a handicap?
Foot.
It'd be a long ramp.
Yeah, that's why that ramp was 75 feet.
No, I'm just talking about from there to the sidewalk.
It would have to be, it'd still have to be a decent length in order to conform with the ADA.
Yeah, we put the same design as the other ramp that we had on the different ramp.
Okay, why don't we just take a look at that?
I would agree with Tim. I think handicap accessible is an important.
I agree. It's never been handicap accessible though.
Yeah, I understand, but these days, I'd say take a look at it.
Okay. Well, we do have two other means of egress for handicap in the building.
They're both on the front side.
No, one's on the front side and one's on the southwest corner.
Any other discussion?
Nope.
All right, we have a motion and a second to remove the two sidewalks and the railings. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried.
It's so evident that that's a doorway. You know, I mean, people, whether they read signs in an emergency situation like that, they tend to go in that direction. Again, I'm saying it's probably important to take a look at making it get accessible too.
All right, next up, Paula Hazelwood,
Thanks, guys.
CEO, Advanced Southwest Iowa Corporation, and Mike Hornacek. Did I say that? Hornacek, President and CEO Together, Inc. And we have a presentation.
Yes, so good morning. I have the pleasure actually of introducing Mike. Him and I got the opportunity to meet back in 2023, and he's the president and CEO of Together Omaha, which they are our current food pantry partner here in Council Bluffs. They're located just off West Broadway on 34th Avenue, but soon to be moving into their brand new location on the Lakin Foundation, on the Lakin campus. And so, just in Mike and I's discussions, he has a very strong commitment to getting to know the community. And so I had lunch with him a couple of weeks ago and said, why don't you come in and give a presentation? He did one to the city council yesterday at study session. And also, obviously, it's important for him to be in front of you. So He's gonna chat with you a little bit what Together does and obviously why it's important that they're here partnering in Council Bluffs and Pottawattamie County. Mike, take it away.
Thanks, Paula. Good morning.
Morning.
It's great to have the opportunity to be here and just tell you a little bit about Together. We have been in Council Bluffs in September of 2021. Really, we had the opportunity to really come over and respond to the food insecurity needs that obviously were increasing dramatically during the pandemic. And so we had been operating in Omaha at that time for about 47 years and had a significant service delivery model already established in terms of how to effectively operate a pantry. And so we had the opportunity to come over and establish our operations, which have went exceptionally well. Last year, we served about 9,000 unique individuals in the Council Bluffs pantry. If you look at that in terms of kind of segmenting that information, about 5,000 of those people were repeat visitors and visited on average 8 times in a year. The other folks visited once, which I think is always interesting just to kind of reflect on that information. But so obviously from a traffic count perspective for a year, 8 visits times 5,000 individuals, that's about 40,000 visits from the community to our pantry. I think the one thing that's important to touch on that makes our pantry a little bit unique is 3 things. One, we operate 5 days a week and many hours a day. And a lot of that is about access, hope, and dignity. So it's also about nutrition. When you're available and open every single day, we have the ability to distribute produce, things that are a lot higher nutritional value because we have refrigeration and we have the ability to move those things daily because a lot of the product that you get that is of high nutritional value is things that are near expiration date that you get from the Hy-Vees, the Bakers, the Costcos, the Sam's Clubs. So we have the ability to take that product in and turn it around in a very quick manner. The other pieces that are really unique and important, everybody that walks through our door, whether it's your first time visiting or your 50th time visiting, you go through an intake process. We have full-time staff that you will sit down and visit with. And the point of that conversation is 1, very simply data collection. 2 is also to start to develop relationships and really start to learn what else is going on. Because if you think of it in terms of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if you're coming through the door asking for food, the chances that there are other things going on that need to be addressed are probably pretty high. But if I'm sitting there, one of us is sitting there trying to get somebody to open up and share their story, the chances of them doing that with somebody they don't know is much more limited versus somebody that they have a relationship with. And so through those conversations, we also talk about SNAP, WIC outreach, what our financial literacy needs, what our workforce development needs, what our health needs. And so through the first 2 years that we've been operating, the Council Bluffs Southwest Iowa community has been very welcoming, have been great to work with. We've had the Pottawattamie County Public Health Department comes on a regular basis, does health screenings, has even done vaccines. We've had the Workforce Development Department for Pot County come in on a regular basis to help provide services and just make sure those things are available. And so in summary for that piece, it's just been great to be here. We've been really happy in our reception and the impact that we've been able to make on the community, which is primarily why we're here. Just for further context, in terms of the organization, we operate 5 programs on a daily basis in Omaha and Council Bluffs. Those 5 programs are obviously targeted towards food insecurity and housing and homeless services. So most everything I've talked about so far is pantry operations and directed at food insecurity. We also have 3 housing programs that have operated in Omaha for a long time and are starting to develop a further foundation in Council Bluffs in Southwest Iowa. Really briefly, the first one is what we call crisis engagement, and that would be homeless diversion, homeless prevention, street outreach, eviction mitigation. We do a lot of work on what I call health and housing partnerships. So helping do discharge planning in healthcare settings. So that way, if you've had an extended stay in a hospital, for example, and you're getting ready to get discharged, we help facilitate the process so you don't get discharged to the street or to the shelter. It's a big umbrella for a lot of things we do, but to oversimplify, it's really about making sure that anybody that we interface with either has the ability to attain housing or we're helping them retain their housing. So it's a lot of very short-term case management and really targeted financial assistance. So helping back rent, back utilities, IDs, birth certificates, or security deposit, first month's rent to help somebody stabilize. The second program is the opposite end of the spectrum. It's what we call Horizons. It's a rapid rehousing model. This largely serves anybody in our communities that has experienced chronic homelessness. So this would be the individual that has been in our shelter system on our streets for years, or episodes that add up to years. Significant trauma around schizophrenia, bipolar, probably has a physical disability as well. Because of those traumas, probably has a substance abuse addiction as well. I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say probably some of the hardest people to serve in our communities. It's a long-term 2-year intensive case management program. And so because of the intensity and the length of the program, we see pretty significant outcomes there. 80% exit to permanent housing, and 2 years post-exit, the recidivism rate is 0, which has been quite honestly astonishing. The first time I saw the reports 24 months ago, I didn't think they were right. I asked the program director to rerun the reports because I didn't think they were right, but they're correct. And then the third one is what we call short-term emergency housing. We bought a hotel about 2 years ago. It is specifically for those 65 and above that have very specific health needs that are experiencing homelessness. So this could be the person that has been diagnosed with cancer, needs to get chemo treatment, has no place to go to recover that's suitable for that type of scenario, or somebody that's, again, had a very lengthy hospital stay, but is getting discharged from the hospital, but needs someplace to go where they can recover. And so this is the point of that program. Obviously limited capacity. I think right now we have about 40 rooms available. But those are the 3 housing programs. And then the last one really is, I've been at Together 14 years. I spent 20 years in retail before that. So you might say my learning curve was a little steep at the beginning in terms of learning the sector. But in 14 years, if there's anything that I've learned, it's our programs only get us so far. Unless we're willing to have conversations from a policy and advocacy perspective about systems and structures that either contribute to the problems we have or help perpetuate some of the issues that we see. We've got to be open to having those discussions because we've been in this war, if you will, for 60 years. And we're worse off today than we were 60 years ago. So we need to be open to brave conversations. So the 5th program is advocacy and policy, and just being willing to be innovative, creative, and having conversations, brave conversations about what we've done historically is not working. So what are we going to do? I know you have a packed agenda. As Paula knows, I will just talk forever if somebody gives me the opportunity. So I'm going to stop and just say thank you, and I'm happy to entertain any questions.
So the hotel that you're talking about, is that part of the Omaha program or does that exist in Council Bluffs?
It's in Omaha, but it serves the region. So Pottawattamie County, Sarpy, Douglas.
A lot of what you're describing sounds like Heartland Family Services. So
Similar.
are you competing for donor dollars?
I mean, yes and no. A lot of the housing programs are what I call braided funded. So federal dollars, state dollars, and private donors. But I think in those specific areas, especially housing, there's such a realization right now that there's not enough capacity amongst, I mean, we could use 2 more togethers and 2 more Heartland Family Services and a New Visions. You know, we could all use more capacity. So it's not really, I think the days of competing for dollars is kind of over in the sense of a lot of our partnerships through our staffs and through our stakeholders. I think there's a realization that there's way more than enough need than there is resources and organizations. And so it's really more about how do you collaborate? We need to be way more intentional about collaborating in 2024 than we ever have been, because there is not enough resources to meet the need that's out there. And that's also why we see homelessness more now than we probably have in at least a decade. I think I said to Council of City Council yesterday, the annual point time count was 3 weeks ago. So we haven't got that data yet. My educated guess would be it will be the highest numbers we've seen for the region since we started counting in 2007. And that's pretty scary because none of us have any more resources than we did really in 2019. We did in 2021 and 22 because we had a lot of CARES Act, ARPA, pandemic level relief. The Lakin Foundations and Iowa West of the world invested a lot of extra dollars to make sure that we could keep our communities afloat. All those spigots got turned off October 31st, 2022. So we're seeing ripple effects of that now. So we need more collaboration and coordination than we've ever seen.
Do you want to talk a little bit about your partnership with New Visions and how you work with them?
Yeah,
Where
so
are you physically located at Council Bluffs?
34th.
34th and,
Broadway.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
thank
then,
you.
we're being told September 1st is when we should be prepared to move to the Lakin campus in the new building that's being
Okay.
built there. So we'll be on the first floor. Family Inc. will be on the second floor.
Okay.
Like Paula was saying, Brandy and New Visions have probably been our most significant partner in being in Council Bluffs. Brandy and I have known each other for a really long time. She's probably been my biggest cheerleader champion, if you will. One of the first things I did when we came over was form an advisory council, mainly of providers in the Council Bluffs, Southwest Iowa area. So it has partnerships from the library and the health department and New Visions and many other providers just to help me learn the community, what people are doing, what services are happening, to make sure that we're not duplicating anything and we're filling gaps. And Brandy and New Visions have been a tremendous partner in that and a huge informant, if you will. It sounds bad. Informant and just providing information to help me know where we belong and where we don't. For example, street outreach is something that we do a lot in Council Bluffs or in Omaha. Probably don't need to be doing that in Council Bluffs because Brandy and New Visions has a really big footprint with that. So those are the types of conversations that we have on a pretty regular basis. And just making sure that we're coordinating together and not stepping on each other's toes when we're all so busy that there's not enough resources to go around to meet the need currently.
when you're talking homelessness, you're talking the area you cover, right? You're the, you know, the Douglas County, Pottawattamie County. And, but I'm, you know, as you can but expect, I'm interested in what's happening in Pottawattamie County.
Yep.
Can you give a little bit of a summary of what we're dealing with here?
I think from a scope perspective, it's very similar to Douglas County in that you have lack of affordable housing that's contributing to higher rates of homelessness that we've never seen before. You have pressures on mental health and hospital system, healthcare system that we've never seen before as the baby boomers retire, largest generation that we've ever had. And so as those baby boomers retire, it's putting larger pressure on every system that's out there. And so between housing affordability crisis, largest generation retiring, and a lot of those people are not prepared to retire, if you will, from a financial perspective. And then if you look at cost of rental housing in our area, it's skyrocketed in the last, well, it had skyrocketed before the pandemic, and then the pandemic was just the icing on the cake. So those three things alone are three factors that are contributing heavily to homelessness in the general area. And obviously population of homelessness is different, but the causes are really similar, whether it's Pottawattamie County, Sarpy County, Douglas. And from a community perspective, I don't know if you're familiar with MATCH. It's a continuum of care for the metropolitan area. We all work in unison. All the data is collected in unison. All of the point in time counts are collected in unison. So it's not just like a Douglas County, a Pottawattamie County, a Sarpy County. It's really making sure that we're all working together. We're using common language, common performance measures, so that way we're not all kind of like Together's doing this and Heartland Family Services is doing that. New Visions is doing that, but they're what I would call a backbone organization. So they help point us all in the same direction and help us identify gaps and needs, which I've always appreciated, especially 14 years ago when I had a huge learning curve. But it's, we have a tall task ahead of us.
Mike, do you have a separate board of directors for the Iowa part, or do you have Iowa board members on your Omaha board?
So we don't have a separate board, but we have the advisory council, and then I have somebody that sits on the advisory council that's a liaison to the board. But I wasn't really going to be an advertisement. I am looking for a Southwest Iowa board member to fill a seat. So if anybody's interested or knows somebody, I am looking to add somebody besides the representative from the advisory council.
Great. Any other questions for Mike?
Yeah, I've got a few if nobody else does.
I'm good.
How are you funded?
It's really diversified. It's a lot of private donations, corporations, faith community, government funding, whether it's local, state, county.
So you do get federal and state money. So if someone comes to you that could possibly qualify for SNAP benefits, do you direct them to Health and Human Services?
Yes, so in Pottawattamie County, they would go to Chris for WIC. And then SNAP, it goes through Food Bank for the Heartland. We would help them fill out their application, and then it goes to Food Bank for the Heartland for processing.
So you don't direct them to the Health and Human Services. You take some kind of an application process and forward it to them. That's where, it's my understanding, that's Tom Buska's area where they get, um, um, food assistance. So I mean, are there services that you're duplicating that Health and Human Services can provide?
We're just helping facilitate the application process to make sure that it's filled out correctly. We're not submitting any applications alone.
Okay.
We're just helping support the application process.
So you would do the referral and then help them with the application process, just to make sure that it's done appropriately.
How do you determine if somebody's qualified for housing assistance?
Depends on the program and there's scoring criteria involved.
So that would piggyback off of the Section 8 program that HUD provides, right?
Section 8 would be a part of the solution. So we are largely a service provider. So most everybody that comes to us is on the brink of losing their housing or already has. And so we provide targeted financial resources and then case management to help connect them to permanent housing. So a lot of what we're going to do is be getting referrals from New Visions and other homeless services providers, the healthcare arena, school districts, saying we've got XYZ family that needs help with rental assistance or because they're facing an eviction or they already have lost their housing. They need help with a security deposit and first month's rent, and they need help with housing placement and search. And so we provide all of those services. And then in terms of identifying the permanent housing and making sure that it's sustainable and they can afford it long-term, that's where Section 8 potentially could come into the equation, because if they can't afford the housing on their own without any types of subsidies, then that's where the case management process would kick in and we'd start to investigate what are the other options out there from a subsidy perspective to help them be sustainable.
Okay.
Is there any special considerations you get to veterans, service veterans?
It would be not together specifically. It's part of the ecosystem. So if you're a veteran or you have a disability, you have kids, all of those things will make you score higher on the eligibility criteria and you'll rise to the top of the list. Because this gets really into the weeds, but there's actually for the entire continuum of care, there's a by name list by program. So there's a list that's prioritized for permanent supportive housing, for rapid rehousing, for homeless prevention. And so you rise to the top of the list based on how much trauma, lengths of stay in homelessness. Are you a veteran? Do you have a physical disability? All of those things contribute because, again, sadly, there's not enough housing, there's not enough resources. So you have to prioritize who has the most need, the most levels of trauma. And so they'll rise to the top of the list. So I guess short answer to your question is yes, veterans would come to the top of the list.
Okay, thank you.
Nothing else, Susan?
Well, Mike, thank you very much for coming in and giving us the introduction and the update. And we look forward to an invitation to your open house when you're in the new location.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you.
I know Mike has to go. He's got another appointment, so thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. And I plan on sharing his contact with all of you in case you have some follow-up dialogue that you want to conduct.
All right, next up, Paula Hazelwood, CEO, and Shalimar Mazzettis, Advanced Southwest Iowa Corporation.
Well, again, good morning. Thanks for the opportunity to come in and provide you Advance's update that we do on a pretty regular basis. I know Shalimar had already provided you her year-end update previously, but I think she has a couple of project things that she'll touch on when I'm finished giving my broader update. And so first of all, I want to congratulate Supervisor Miller, obviously, for your chairmanship role that you've taken on. So congratulations there. I also have a couple of thank yous. Supervisor Wickman, thank you so much for your service to Advanced Southwest Iowa Corporation. You've been a board member since 2019. Just recently transitioning into the county secondary position, but I definitely wanted to recognize that and again, say thank you. And then while Supervisor Shea normally attends our board meetings as the secondary, he's now officially the primary county appointee for our board. So thank you. We look forward to having you on it in that full-time capacity. And then I also want to thank Matt Wyatt and John Rasmussen. They are just exceptional development partners to us. Shalimar and I, connect with them on a regular basis. We've set up a one-on-one monthly meeting with them so we can collectively talk about, what's going on specifically in rural Pottawattamie County. And then I also wanted to recognize Advance's Vice President, Josh Calton, is here. He's newly appointed to that vice chair role, or vice president role. So I just wanted to acknowledge that he is in the audience with us as well. So as all of you know, Advance was founded in 2013, and I believe Supervisor Belt was part of that initial founding when Advance was formed. I've been running the organization since 2016, and since that time, the organization has evolved really from a single point of focus, which originally was only new to market projects. So no focus whatsoever on anything else, no existing business, none of those things. We were a one-person shop. Initially, they had hired an executive director. He left in mid-2016, and then I onboarded in the fall of 2016. We are now a full-service economic development organization. We have 4.5 employees. And we currently we're very proud of this. We currently serve all of the communities in Pottawattamie County with not only a focus on those new to market projects, but also, obviously working with our existing business base to do expansion and retention. A big focus on entrepreneurial and small business development, site identification and readiness, but most importantly, the relationship building component of what we do is vitally important. So I just want to thank the full board of supervisors. Since I've been in this role, your ongoing support has been tremendous. And I'm not just talking about the monetary part of it. I mean, just the full support of the projects and things that we work has been fabulous. And we as a staff could not do what we do without you. But also your wonderful staff members. Mitch obviously has been a good partner, and Jeanette specifically. She's always dealing with my crazy rescheduling options on the agenda. So we really appreciate that. So as highlights go for 2023, I just want to give you some highlights, and then we're going to come back and talk more specifically about projects that are specific to the city of Council Bluffs. So in 2023, consistently between our urban, rural, and entrepreneurial projects, we maintained approximately 50 projects in our active pipeline. That means that of those 50 projects, we were doing something with them to move the process forward. We actually ended 2023 with 52 active projects in the pipeline. We conducted close to 350 business meetings. And in addition, our Kitchen Council, which is our food incubator space over at the Pace Center, had engagement with 68 food entrepreneurs. They onboarded 4 new members, which was the highest membership that Kitchen Council has experienced since the program started in 2016. We had 2 successful exits of the members of Kitchen Council. One is Veg Edible. They actually did a bricks and mortar lease in Omaha. And then Barbecue Brothers, which is our very first Kitchen Council member, had a successful exit, and they have taken over the former Doozy's spot. So if you haven't been to see them, I would highly recommend you do so. And obviously we wish them very best in their endeavors. We currently have 16 members at the Kitchen Council, and we have a list that is in the process of being reviewed and or going through the licensing processes to be onboarded as new members for Kitchen Council. Nikki Ferguson, our manager of entrepreneurial development, raised $20,000 in prize money for the Rev pitch competition, which was held in November at the Pace Center. That program is in partnership with TS Bank. We had the highest number of applications, entrepreneurial applications we've ever had. And so we're really proud of that. And that event, now that we're able to have it back in person again, it will just continue to grow and grow as the word spreads. And obviously, hopefully, we're able to raise some additional prize money. Nikki probably, if she's listening, she probably won't like to hear me say that, but that's the way it goes. We've also been able to, we are in the process of hopefully commencing construction on a new startup space that the advanced staff would locate to once constructed. We have identified 20 Arena Way, which is between Big Kel's Pizza and Full Fledged Brewing Company, 6,800 square feet of space there. We've raised about half the dollars that we need to commence construction, which is about $600,000 is what we've raised. We need to get about another 600. We would like 400 would do it, but 600 would be better. And so we're hoping to do that. We're in fund development mode right now, and we're hoping to do that to be able to commence construction in late Q2 of 2024. We also made 80 referrals to some of our partner organizations, specifically the Small Business Development Center. Nebraska Enterprise Fund has a fund that is specific to Southwest Iowa, obviously Iowa Western Community College, and then our partners in our local lending institutions and real estate firms. We presented at 29 community meetings and coordinated or hosted 28 community events and training opportunities. The majority of those were specific to our entrepreneurial and small business programming. A few of them were outside of it, though. Shalimar has done a tremendous amount of work on the Rural Pottawattamie County Infrastructure Coalition Initiative and keeping that moving forward. Obviously, you know, that was the county's and Iowa West partnership to allow us to help serve the rural communities in Pot County through infrastructure improvement. So that is still in the works. And then we were also asked to take over what was formerly the Iowa West Foundation Cities program. It has been completely revamped and restructured. The program is now called Vibrant Rural Communities, i.e. VIBE. And obviously it's the Iowa Western Grant Cycle for rural communities with a specific focus on infrastructure, housing, and placement. So what does this really all mean? Some of these pieces, it really means that partnerships, passion, and shared goals are vitally important. We definitely are a team of 4.5. We don't work on every economic development in Council Bluffs and Pottawattamie County. That would be virtually impossible for a variety of reasons. Some developers prefer to tackle it on their own. The city's working on projects, the county's working on projects. The only ones that we come to you and report on are those and share data are those that we actually played some type of role in pushing the project forward and obviously ending in a successful land for Council Bluffs and Pottawattamie County. So in 2023, we landed 16 of those projects that we were working on. It was a mix of both new to market projects and expansions. The capital investment that we recorded was about $471 million, 314 jobs created and or retained. So we did a little bit different this year. We actually compared it. As you know, we are a part of the Greater Omaha Economic Development Partnership, and that's an 8-county regional partnership. We track everything the entire partnership does, so we have the collective numbers for all of the projects that were worked during that time frame. And so you heard me just give what our numbers were. We got the end of the year report from the Greater Omaha Chamber Partnership. They landed a total of 37 projects. 16 of those were ours, which is 43%. Their capital investment was $710 million. Ours was $471 million of that, and they had 917 new and retained jobs. Capital investment piece, 66% of that was ours, and then about 34% as it relates to the created jobs. That has probably been the norm for several years. We've just never put a side-by-side comparison. We can go back and do it at any time, but I find those numbers interesting, and you can see why the importance of advance and the partnership is vital to the continued growth for Pottawattamie County, Council Bluffs, and the entire region. So the Council Bluffs projects that we were able to land this year successfully, I reported previously on ICAP Phase 1. We were able to land Ice Cap Phase 2. They all had always, since we started working with them, talked about doing a Phase 2. But I think it even shocked them that they pulled the trigger on it so quickly, and it was because their Phase 1 building had been leased up. So the market demand is there for cold storage, and so that drove them obviously starting Phase 2, which they're almost done with construction on. Cold storage facility at 16th Avenue. This is the second building, close to 200,000 square feet. This investment was 67 million. The total investment for Phase 1 and Phase 2, 116 million. 150 new jobs in Phase 1, and then, or for this Phase 2. Total for Phase 1 and Phase 2 is about 230 positions. And their average wage, which I always think is important to share, is about $25 an hour plus full benefits. So that's pretty good. Opus is the second one that we were able to conduct a Phase 2 landing with, warehouse distribution on River Road. This is their second building, 300,000 square feet. The total investment was 30 million. They, building 1 is completely leased up 100%. In the building number 2, 70% leased as of current. So again, market demand is obviously driving all of this. I have been notified though that, Opus is a major developer, and in their real estate portfolio platform, some developers keep their real estate holdings a long time. Opus typically is not one of those. And so building number 1 is on the market, the one that's 100% leased. And so I have received inquiries, one from a developer on the East Coast, one from a developer on the West Coast that I've worked with in the past, that got notification of the building being on the market, and they're both interested in acquiring it. And to have either of those national developers here in our market, along with Opus, obviously would be great for us, because that opens up other opportunities in Council Bluffs and Pottawattamie County. Nikki Ferguson worked with Georgie Ivanhoff, who's the owner of Best Wrestler. He's obviously he partnered with the Iowa West Foundation and did a major renovation at the field house to house his Best Wrestler program. And that was about a $600,000 renovation that was done there. He obviously trains champion wrestlers, as we've all seen probably on social media as of recently. And then just this past Saturday, he added another component to that facility, which is jiu-jitsu. And I never say that right. I always get it wrong, but I think that's close. And so they celebrated with a ribbon cutting on Saturday. And then Nikki also assisted with Dr. Robin Epley in her search for a new facility for vision care. And that they had their official ribbon cutting ceremony. I believe it was at the end of December, maybe early January. And they're located at 200 South 29th in Council Bluffs. And that was about a $500,000 renovation, and added 6 new employees. And then, just in reference to 2024, it has started off really well. I mean, obviously, we've continued to work with the projects that we had in the active pipeline from 2023 that we didn't land. So we're continuing to work with those companies. There's a variety of projects, again, new to market and some expansion projects. The projects that I work are in the logistical warehouse distribution technology side of the equation. If you're not aware of the parcel just east of Iowa Western Community College did officially close at the end of December. And that is looking to be a very sizable technology project moving forward. But we also have received, sorry, I gotta take a drink. I talk super fast, so. We have onboarded some new projects. We did respond to a request for information proposal from a site selection firm for a new manufacturing project. So we did submit that request back in late January. We're just waiting to see if they have any questions, or if we made the funnel, cutting it down to a lesser number of sites in the region. And then we've also had in-person visits from some logistical companies and a technology company as well. Interest rates and supply chain issues made 2023, actually 2022 into 23, really interesting. It did delay some of our warehouse distribution projects, but the good news is that those projects were not They weren't closed. They were just delayed. And so some purchase agreements have been extended to allow us to see what the market's going to do, moving forward in 2024. Election years are always a little bit hinky for economic development, to say the least. The year started off well, so I'm hoping that's going to be a good indication moving forward. But we're still facing some of those other challenges. But, you know, some research that I've been following and, you know, watching a couple of presentations by the Federal Reserve, it does appear, at least they say, they're going to start backing down the interest rates very slowly, though. So those 19 individuals that make that decision, I think they meet again in March. So maybe it'll come down 0.25%, and then they meet again in May. Maybe it'll come down another quarter. I don't know what that looks like. I wish I had that crystal ball to predict that, but that's kind of what I'm getting from those conversations. But it doesn't matter regardless. You know, we're going to keep moving forward, promoting Council Bluffs and Pottawattamie County. It's a great place to locate and expand a business. And again, we just thank you for your support, your ongoing support, and happy to answer any questions you have. Yes, sir.
I always look at Ankeny as an example of what Council Bluffs could do. Ankeny's a very successful community. I think it started, basically their growth started with Tony's Spices headquarters moving there some time ago. Is there any effort being made that you are aware of to move corporate headquarters to Council Bluffs of any kind? I mean,
I would say, I mean, we have done a few recruitment projects like that.
okay.
It's a little bit different. The corporate headquarters, when they're looking to look at the region, they're looking at the big map or the big dot on the map, and that's Omaha.
Well, but Council Bluffs, logistically, you got the crossroads between Interstate 29 and 80.
That's why the
Miles Zero.
warehouse logistical, it's a
Yeah.
good location.
And just to let you know, when I first got on the board here, I thought I'd wield my power, and I called ConAgra in Chicago. I said, come back here. Of course, I got to a vice president, was able to talk to her for just a little bit, and she said, well, I am from Chicago. She hung up. That's
Well, and coming from somebody that has been an employee of the Omaha Chamber for 20-some years and went through that process when they made that transition, it's a much more complicated process than just calling somebody up, no offense.
Like I said, I
And
just saw the way
saying,
around.
you know, hey, move to Council Bluffs or Omaha. But I would say that, you know, we have some really good office opportunities on River's Edge, and we've made pitches because it would be nice to have, you know, some of those, even our local folks, some of our successful local people, Power Tech, you were back there, to have their name on, you know, the building because it.
Right. Now, you're aware of what both Omaha and Council Bluffs is hoping to happen with the rail link.
Yeah, we're very familiar with all of that.
Okay, and you've seen Brandon Garrett's presentation?
Yes.
Okay, so you're familiar with all of that. They're looking for nodes along that route, what they call nodes, reasons for people to cross the river. And so how do you see, what way do you see making Council Bluffs, downtown Council Bluffs attractive, more attractive than it is? Because it's, you know, it's sadly,
I think it's come a long way, quite honestly, Supervisor Jorgensen, in the last 20 years. I mean, pretty much all of West Broadway has been redeveloped, and there was some industrial, you know, areas that were on there that have been relocated to more appropriate areas. But I do think I went on many of those trips, the transportation trips, to areas that do have rail cars. They have, you know, rapid transit bus lines. And yes, nodes do develop. I mean, that's just an organic, natural thing when you get a streetcar. So I think some of the housing development along the First Avenue corridor will make a tremendous difference. I'm not saying there aren't a few other businesses that probably need to be revamped and or maybe potentially relocated to, you know, to more appropriate areas of the city. And that all has to be done in a very systematic. You never want to displace anybody. You don't want to discourage people from doing business here.
Right.
You want to enhance their, you know, their thought process of actually expanding and or, you know, relocating someplace.
So you, some of the people have stepped before the board talking about the prospects of Council Bluffs growing,
Mhm.
had brought up the fact that they believe that Council Bluffs could double in size in the next 30 years.
Well, and that's what's predicted by MAPA when they did their 2050 study a couple of years ago. So yeah, I mean, that, that is logical, but I think also, the River's Edge area, the golf course, I think there's a lot of possibilities, to house
Yeah,
a great number of folks.
Well, also what Nikki is doing with our manager of entrepreneurship, what she's doing with facilitating and creating an ecosystem for entrepreneurship here in Council Bluffs is gonna do a ton towards that Ankeny vibe that you're kind of going for. Because the more people you bring in with big ideas, doing new things, collaboratively working together, the more programming we can put behind that, the more things we can bring to this one epicenter, the more energy, the more ideas, the more product comes out of it and stays hopefully on this side of the road.
Okay, we have so much history here in Council Bluffs and Pottawattamie County, so much history. I think we need to find a better way to take advantage of that. Union Pacific, Mile Zero is Council Bluffs. You got Abraham Lincoln owned property in Council Bluffs, owned 17 lots, for goodness sakes. Lewis and Clark, the Mormon Church, all of that.
Well, we're in a really good spot right now, specifically as it relates to a few things. The rail car discussion is definitely one of those. And Brandon Garrett is an ex officio on our board of directors. And so we have him slated. He will be coming in March to give kind of an update on that. We have a few strategic sessions that we're slating into our board agendas this year, just because we have so many things going on that our board members need to be fully aware of.
Yeah, I would like to see reasons for people to cross the river to come in over here, not just for those properties that are along the river, but find a way to bring people into downtown Council Bluffs for whatever reason,
Well, a couple of other reasons that you guys need to know that we're in a really good place right now. Nebraska is in the process of revamping their state tax incentives that they offer to businesses. And so we're sitting in a very competitive place right now because of that. And I think that another key piece is power. So Omaha Public Power District, I don't know if you guys have been following this, but they're obviously in the process of assessing their full grid, and they have very little power to offer these days. Mid-American is doing the same thing, but we've got a competitive edge against that right now. Yeah, good. So yes, we will continue to have those discussions moving forward. Any other questions from the supervisors?
Did you put together a year-end report?
We have our December report that has all of that. We have not done our full because it was our 10-year anniversary and we're trying to do something a little bit different, Tim. So we will have something that will come out probably by the end of this first quarter.
That will identify the project from 2023.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if we'll have a list, but it'll have most of them in there. But I'm happy to share the list with you. They're all public record now, so.
Well, I always enjoy hearing your updates and understanding all of the work that goes into the effort. Appreciate you coming in this morning.
Yep. Thank you for the opportunity. We always appreciate it.
I can update super quickly. I'll just go really quickly because I just was here in January for you guys. One new project that did come online is called Project Pleasant Shelby. It's on the Pottawattamie County side of Shelby. This one was a little tumultuous to say the least. We walked into it in kind of the 11th hour because of a lot of different situations. But it looks like we've got it all hammered out. The plan right now is that the city of Shelby is going to annex in that project. It is going to be a light industrial project totaling $3 million in capital investment and roughly 3 full-time jobs. So we are anticipating that completion of the annexation of 40 acres of that Tom Rao land that's right there next to Menards will be annexed in as of March 5th. And they will start construction as of then on the land. It's going to go in, there's going to be about 4 pods to start with, and then a permanent building will come in the next 6 to 9 months once they get it ordered.
South of Menards?
Yes, just south. So, you know where Nishna Valley's power station is, the substation?
Off that back road?
Yep, off Whipple Roll or whatever it's called.
Where the substation is, it's the acre to 2 acres that's right, to the west of the substation. Is what the actual development is. Everything else is getting rezoned, is getting annexed in and brought in as, industrial 1. So, that can go in there. And that goes along with the city of Shelby's, but this has been a rather heavy lift for Matt, Wyatt, and myself, and everyone that kind of had to get involved with this at the beginning, so thanks to the good partnership that we have there. That we're able to get things done quickly and make a big difference. And then my other big project that I had going on, Project Pineapple, which is in Carter Lake, should cross everything, please, for me, have an executed agreement by the end of the month. An executed developers agreement, and then everything is rolling on fine. That is a $13 to $15 million capital investment with 55 jobs coming over from Nebraska. So, really excited to see that. Any questions?
I love stealing jobs from.
Don't you love me too? I mean, I like being a good partner.
There you go.
Thanks, Oliver.
You're not supposed to say that, Jeff.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just think that.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming in.
Yep.
We're
Thanks,
moving on
ladies.
to Tyler. Sorry that we made you wait all of this time, but I'm sure you've learned a few things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Next up, we have Mitch Kai, Chief Financial Officer, discussion and or decision to authorize chair to sign modification agreement on the small town forgivable note for the city of Avoca. Mitch.
Yeah, I mean, take it off and then turn over to Tyler, tell them, basically, we're extending the time frame of when they're gonna have a project finish. So we're gonna make that into September.
Yeah, September 25th, or September of 25 at the latest.
Yeah, and your big switch, you guys are switching from asphalt to concrete sidewalks and.
Yeah, we wanted a lot more long-term solution rather than asphalt will disintegrate very quickly. But it's significantly more to do concrete. So I'd just like some time to apply for some grants, like there's DOT grants that I'd like to apply to, and a few other from a few other smaller foundations.
When do we have to be spent?
So we have to have the obligation done on those by December of 2024, so this year, then they need to be spent by 2026. So we've already obligated these funds through that agreement, so we're in good shape there.
I'll move that for you.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by Shay, second by Jorgensen to approve the modification agreement for the city of Avoca. The additional discussion. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you.
Couple of them are done. I think 4 of them finished up. So they're coming along.
All right, next up, we have David Baird, Chief Information Officer, Information Technology, discussion and or decision to approve and authorize board chairman to sign agreement with City of Avoca Police Department for computer purchase. And if you remember, we talked about this several weeks ago, that part of David's 5-year improvement plan was to get new computers for all of the deputies.
Correct.
And during that process, we realized a disconnect that the city of Avoca with their police chief needs one. And I'll quit talking and let David explain it.
Sure. So I was in here maybe a month or so ago, and the original idea was that we would buy their computer for their police department, and then they would pay us back over a course of 5 years, whatever the total number was divided by 5, that's what they would pay each year. The board was not interested in being a bank necessarily. That was the way it was phrased. And so we went back and renegotiated the plan, which would be, we would buy the computer and they would pay us back half now. So this agreement that's in front of you is both the purchase of that computer, but it is also our agreement that we have with the city of Avoca and Police Department, which we already had before. So it's really combining 2 agreements into one. Our IT support agreement that we have with them and this purchase of this computer for their department.
And Kristen worked with us to get the agreement up to date, and And the city of Avoca is,
Yes, that would be a significant help.
How long has this officer been with you then?
He's been with us about a year now.
Okay, 'cause you guys, I've been on here too long. You guys have been in and out a couple different times as far as officers. Yeah,
He plans to stay.
okay.
and I went to the jail and spoke with Sheriff Brown about the relationship between the deputies and how they interact with the Avoca chief. And it all makes great sense, and they spoke very highly of them, and it's important that they're all on the same page as far as technology goes. I just think it's a step in the right direction.
Is that your budget, David?
It is.
I'll make the motion, Felt.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Belt, a second by Shay to approve and authorize the board chairman to sign the county IT support and purchase agreement with the city of Avoca for the 50% of the computer purchase through the IT budget. Additional discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for sitting through all the meeting.
What's that?
Thanks for sitting through all that meeting.
You bet. Yeah. Very educational. Thank you. Yeah.
All right, moving on. Jana Limerick, Director, Human Resources, and Maria Seek, Administrator, Public Health, discussion and/or decision for approval of a policy for animal control officer on-call pay practices.
Morning. So with animal control, we have one full-time officer and generally 3 on-call officers. Right now, our full-time officer is doing the on-call as well. It's a position that we've had open for some time, and we going through that, the way that's all laid out is they get their on-call pay just for being on call, which was the $1 an hour. We want to increase that to $2 an hour, and then they get the animal control officer rate for any activities they do. So we took the policy to the Board of Health, and they did approve that at the January meeting. And I'm bringing it to you.
So roughly, what are we looking at as far as money increase?
It would
Estimated.
just, instead of $1 an hour, it would be $2 an hour. So every 2 weeks, it would be from $250 to $500.
We did feel that we needed to raise that because, like Maria said, we've had that job posted for some time with very few quality and maybe quantity of applicants. And so, I mean, it's a difficult position to fill. It's only on call. So you might get called in, you might not get called in. So to sit, you know, being on call, right, you have to stay within a certain distance. You can't do certain things. You have to be ready to respond for $1 an hour. We really felt we needed to raise that to $2 an hour to try to incentivize people to want to be interested in doing this on-call job.
So did they get additional compensation besides the $2?
If they get called in, yes.
Correct.
Then it moves to the hourly regular rate because now they're working.
Okay.
Yes, so there could be a chance within it's a 2-week on-call rotation that you don't get called in at all. So all you get is what, $500?
Right.
For being on call, $500 for 2 weeks. Or maybe you get called in one day and then it jumps to the hourly rate. Plus that on-call for the times that you didn't get called in. So it's a very unique position to try to fill. And we feel this is one step we need to take.
What are the hours of the on-call position?
From 4:30 in the afternoon until 8 a.m. And weekends and holidays. And we don't go out for everything during night. If it's like after 7 p.m., then it would just be something where if a deputy needs assistance, something like that, or a bike call. from the hospital.
They can't they can't drink a beer, they can't,
Correct.
right.
Right. Maria and I have had extensive conversations about what can we do? How can we restructure this somehow to make it a different type of position to get applicants? And I mean, that the nature of what we need is so very unpredictable
Right.
that this is where we are.
And so along with raising this up to $2 an hour, we're also reaching out to vet tech schools. So Iowa Western is a vet tech program, and we're reaching out to get the job description posted with them as well to try and get more people that would use it on their resume.
And this is access across the county. The on-call response across the county.
Yep, for sure.
I wouldn't do it for $1 an hour.
Well, what I'm gonna say is, I have trouble paying people who are sleeping in their bed and they're on payroll. Is there any other way to work this out? I mean, have you taken a look at somebody who was on call, they get paid an increase X amount of dollars to actually answer a call? If they don't get called out, then.
It is like that, yes. So
Okay.
we do pay them the on-call rate during that time. And believe me, I've gotten calls at 1:30 in the morning because 911 does call and they do need assistance. Even if you're sleeping, they'll wake you up.
Right.
But after that, after they take a call, then they do get paid that full rate for the animal control officer. And not indefinitely, just for a few hours.
We need to monitor animal control 24 hours a day.
If-
What emergency? If dogs running around our neighborhood, we're not going to get it, are we?
No, but if the deputy does pick up somebody on the interstate that has an animal in the back seat, we will go out and take the animal for the deputy.
Where do you go with it?
Council boss.
Midland.
Okay.
Yeah.
If the person's arrested?
Yeah.
Are we
Well-
compensated for that from that guy that's arrested?
Not for animal control officers' hours, but if their dog is put in the animal shelter, they would have to get their dog back. And so then they would have to pay for the boarding for the animal to get it back.
Could we tie some overtime into that?
There is no overtime with this position. It's just an hourly rate.
Sounds like you've examined some new possibilities as far as the vet tech program at Iowa Western and trying to expand the outreach and increase the compensation.
I think it needs to happen, and I'll move it for you.
Thank you.
I'd like to get a kind of a monthly or quarterly report and see what that thing looks like.
Sure.
On a basis. I'll second it.
I mean, that would be kind of nice to know, Scott. I just can't see.
Can't see picking up a bunch of cats.
Well, I mean,
There will be
What-
months when we don't have any activity.
we're still paying them.
To be on call, yes.
I mean,
And they're on call for 2 weeks at a time?
It's set up to mirror the payroll system so that it doesn't split across pay periods. It's just a convenience for me.
what's gonna generate it on a call?
If there's a dog bite, or an animal bite, then that would start an investigation into a rabies exposure. So it would be, primarily, it would just be taking the information and, if it's like an evening thing, taking the information and then passing it along to the day shift, because there's a lot of paperwork that has to be filled out and a full investigation that goes with it.
If it's on a weekend or a holiday, then that's a little more timely. We have to get that response done.
You know, I can certainly agree with paying, you know, somebody who is on call, you know, fairly if they get called out. But again, like I'm saying, I have a little bit of a issue with people who go to bed and still are on the payroll. That's me.
If we have,
Part-time job.
Well, could
Yeah.
be.
if our expectation is that an employee must report in within a certain amount of time or whatever it is, and if we are telling them you must live within a certain distance because you have to respond, and that you can't do things like you can't go to a barbecue and have a beer, then we do need to.
Well, that's why I asked, you know, 2 weeks. I worked for a company before that was requiring on somebody to be on call weekends, holidays. That's basically to answer for alarms that are sounding in our facility. And, you know, they're on call, but they're not on call for 2 weeks. Basically, they're on call for a certain length of time. But, you know, they get paid, they get well paid if they have to answer that call. You know, the security system gives them a call. Okay, they're down there, they're checking things out. They get paid a certain amount of time, and they get paid very well for the amount of time that they spend down there checking out alarms. You know, if they have to report somebody, some hobo vagrant down there trying to break into our facility, that kind of thing. But again, they don't get paid for sleeping in their bed. So, but $1 an hour, you know, it's not a lot of money.
Can you provide data for the last 6 months? How many times our on-call person was called out?
Definitely.
Is this time sensitive?
It would help us to draw in applications. Right now, I have 1 applicant. Since the beginning of January, I believe we had 4 applicants, and 3 of them didn't respond to come back for an interview even after we asked them.
And we're looking for 3, is that correct?
You're looking for
We prefer to have 3, so there is some time sensitivity to it, I would say.
And I would like to get our full-time officer not on an on-call status as well. So if we could fill it, it would be great.
Because our full-time employee is on call 24/7 right now.
That would stink.
And we have a motion by Shay, second by Beld for approval of the policy for an animal control officer on call A practice. Thoughts?
I just can't really believe we need to do this at all, but
I know Crescent's called them.
Just bring us back some information. In a couple, 2 to 3 months, if you would.
Sure. I appreciate that.
Right.
For vote.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Look forward to those reports. All right. Next up, Jana Limerick, Director, Human Resources. Discussion and/or decision on approval of job description modification for chairlift attendant position.
The chairlift attendant position today, the job description says that you have to be 16 years old. And we don't believe that you need to be 16. We believe that you can be 14. There's nothing in the job that's dangerous or that would violate Department of Labor for someone who's 14 years old. And also our rental shop team members can be 14, and they often come out and assist with that position. So we needed to make sure that it matched. So all we're doing is having it change from 16 to 14 years old.
is this effective in November?
I mean, it's effective whenever you approve it, which likely would be today.
Well, we're close, are we?
Or what, or closed?
Yeah.
Well, it'll be effective for whenever the ski hill opens back up and continue. I mean, we're not closed forever.
We could get 12-inch snow.
Yeah, we could.
Be 95 tomorrow too, Brian.
I know.
Oh, you're saying November of this year, not
Yeah.
retroactively?
Yeah.
No, we would like this to be effective for today, because when the ski hill does open back up, that way those rental shop employees can cross-train and we're not violating our own job description that says you have to be 16.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Bill, second by Shay to approve the job description modification for the chairlift attendant. Additional comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Next, we have Jana Limerick, Director of Human Resources, discussion and or decision on approval of job description and pay for part-time environmental educator position.
So this position is not a new position. It's typically called a day hire. And these positions are on an as-needed basis. It's not necessarily on call, but it's on an as-needed basis to come in and provide the education assistance to the students that come in to our parks. We have full-time coordinators that do this on a regular basis, but there are times when we get busier and we need assistance with that. And or maybe, during the winter, we weren't expecting some sort of group to come in, but we need them to, they do want to come in for some education. And so this position would help provide that education. So we've had this position. Again, we've called it a day hire position. And what we're doing here is cleaning it all up, getting a job description for it, because we do want to get it posted and get ready for the spring and summer. The pay is,
They're associated with the park already.
yes, and then this position works with our coordinators at the park to receive their assignments as to what they're to do and educate on. And it's our coordinators that are putting all the programs together.
And what did you say about the hourly rate?
$13 to $15 an hour.
Without any benefits?
Correct. Yes, just an as-needed position. So it might be a retired teacher, something like that to fill this position.
So move.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Shay, second by Jorgensen to approve the job description and modification and pay for the part-time environmental education position. Additional discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. We have gotten through our agenda, part of it.
Anybody sign?
We'll skip over committee appointments in the essence of time. Did anybody sign for public comments, Becky?
No.
Can I ask one question real quick?
Yeah.
Paula, what's the anticipated time for your closed session?
It should be fairly short.
I'll make a motion to go into closed session pursuant to Iowa Code 21.5, parent 1, parent J, for discussion decision on the purchase or sale of real estate.
I'll second.
By Richmond, second by Jay to go into closed session. Becky, will you call the roll, please?
Chairman Miller,
Aye.
Supervisors Belt, Wickman,
Aye.
Jorgensen,
Aye.
Shay.
Aye.